So we were the UK group. There are 6 of us in our group. Our questions are, there were 3 questions with multiple parts to each. We will get into those in a second, and we'll read our questions as we go.
All right, so before we dive into our case, I'm just going to kind of set the stage with the current events that are currently taking place in the United Kingdom. So first off, the United Kingdom recently left the European Union on January 31st of 2021. The UK officially left the European Union as 51.89% of voters voted to leave the EU. This was a long time coming, as it has been up for discussion since June of 2016. And then up to and including December 31st of 2020, there was a transitional period in which nothing had changed. The UK was still required to comply with the EU laws and rules. And during this time, the UK and EU were holding negotiations on their new relationship during this time. A new deal was recently reached between the two parties on December 24th of 2020, and the deal laid out a series of 3 agreements. If you want to go to the next slide. So those agreements are the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the Information Security Agreement, and the Nuclear Cooperation Agreement. And these new agreements became applicable beginning January 1st of 2021. The Trade and Cooperation Agreement sets out preferential arrangements in areas such as trade in both goods and in services, digital trade, intellectual property, public procurement, security coordination, judicial coordination, and many other things. The main goal of this agreement was to ensure a level playing field and to maintain respect for fundamental rights. The next is the Information Security Agreement. This will allow the UK and EU to exchange classified information. This is mainly under the premise that there's a joint security threat in which it would make it necessary. Thanks to this agreement, the UK and EU will be able to exchange classified information, applying strong guarantees as to the handling and protection of this exchanged information. The final of these 3 agreements is the Nuclear Cooperation Agreement. This agreement focuses on the safe and peaceful use of nuclear energy. It holds that the EU and UK are to comply with international non-proliferation obligations and to uphold a high level of nuclear safety standards. The agreement also allows for continued cooperation between the EU and UK in the European community. This will also make early notification and reliable radiological information available to the EU member states and to the UK in case of nuclear accidents. It will also allow rapid coordinated response to radiological emergencies by sharing real-time data. Finally, this agreement enshrines a clear commitment by both parties not to reduce their current standards of nuclear safety, to cooperate internationally, and to ensure the implementation of nuclear standards and to promote the improvement of said standards. If you want to go to the next slide, Beth. Right. Another important thing to consider is how the pandemic is affecting the UK. As of the end of April, there has been 4.42 million cases of the virus, which have been accompanied by 128,000 deaths in the country. Although the country is doing their best to get people vaccinated, it is still hard to keep up with all the new variants from around the world. The UK is currently in the midst of ending their 3rd lockdown, which began on January 4th of this year. On February 22nd of 2021, Boris Johnson announced a 4-step plan for ending England's lockdown. The plan was set to begin in early March and will progress through the end of June, and when hopefully almost all restrictions on meeting will be removed. The first step of this plan took place on March 8th when schools returned and people were allowed to meet one other person outside. The official stay-at-home order stayed in place until March 29th, when the second part of the first step of reopening happened. At this time, people are allowed to meet outside in groups of 6 or 2 households. At this time, people were encouraged to stay local and not travel, as well as work from home whenever it was possible to do so. The second step of this plan occurred on April 12th, when non-essential retail, hair and nail salons, museums, and gyms were allowed to reopen. In addition to this, restaurants were allowed to offer outdoors dining. The third step of the reopening plan is set to happen in the coming weeks on May 17th. At this point in time, restaurants will be able to open indoor dining, as well as hotels and movie theaters will be opening as well. In addition to this, sports stadiums will also be allowed to have a maximum of 10,000 fans inside. May 17th is also the earliest date in which international travel may return, but this is pending a separate review. And the final step is set to occur on June 21st, in which most, if not all, indoor and outdoor restrictions on meeting will be lifted. One other thing that is important to note in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic is that travelers may enter the UK. However, once you arrive, you will be required to quarantine for 10 days and receive 2 negative tests. In addition to this, before leaving the UK, you'll need to provide proof of a negative COVID test and complete a passenger locator form. If you want to go to the next slide. The final thing that is important to consider when doing business in the UK are the labor laws that are set forth by the government. These regulations might be different than what we have here in the United States. First off, all employees and workers are entitled to a written statement of their terms and conditions of employment before the first day of commencing employment. This is meant to protect the business as well as set out the relationship up front for both parties. In addition to this, the company needs to ensure that they are paying employees a national minimum wage, which is currently set at 8.75 euros an hour. In terms of paid leave, employees are not entitled to a salary while off sick. However, if an employee is sick for 4 or more days, they would be entitled to statutory sick pay, which is currently 95.85 euros per week. In addition to this, in the UK, each employee is required to take 28 working days worth of vacation throughout the year. And these are days that are not holidays or other days that are already given off by the country. As for maternity and paternity leave, every mother is able to take up to 52 weeks of maternity leave. For the first 39 weeks, the employee will be entitled to statutory maternity pay, which is 90% of the employee's weekly average wage for the first 6 weeks, and then the prescribed rate for the remaining 33 weeks. Fathers can also take paid paternity leave of up to 2 weeks and will be paid the prescribed rate during this time. After returning from maternity or paternity leave, the employee is entitled to the same or a similar role. Both employees and employers are required to provide each other with some notice when terminating the employment agreement. Employers are required to give 1 to 2 weeks depending on the length of service of the employee, and employees are only required to give 1 week notice. Companies are also required to have contributing pension schemes. Employers are obligated to automatically enroll their qualifying employees to the workplace pension scheme and make contributions to their employees' pension every pay period. That's all for my part of the presentation. I'll pass it on to you, Gage.
Yeah, so I think I can speak for all of us. That was pretty damn good, Emily. For those just watching, this is our first run through this. And probably that was the longest section, but it was the most thorough, and that was actually a really good analysis.
Thank you.
So like Emily said, I'm going to kick it off with the questions. I'm just going to do A through D of 1 for the chief negotiator attributes. So the first question is, where should we look to target this associate to hire? Should it be in the UK or should it be in the US? Should the chief negotiator be male or female? Does it really matter? Which we'll dig into. Even though everyone speaks English on both sides, should we look to have somebody that might speak different languages? I think that, this probably pertains to some of the other presentations, but definitely address it here. And if any educational background should take place for this associate, whether it's MBA, a legal background, we'll talk about it. So we go to the next slide, Beth. So here you'll see my responses to 1A, 1B. It's pretty straightforward. I put it all on the page and not offline like Emily, which is probably a little more professional, but so be it. The 1A is addressing where the associate should come from. My opinion, and based on some of the research we did on Hofstra's dimensions, is that that person should come from the US. This is primarily in regard to how engaged the CEO is in this individual. And a lot of my work experience, and I'm sure a lot of other people, when people want to be super engaged, it's much easier to be in the same environment, same room, same office. So that way you have charismatic conversations. Things come back through like personal interactions, you have facial expressions, you have a lot of things that you don't get over emails or Skypes. And quite frankly, if someone is that engaged and consistently looking to talk to you, if you just keep getting little pings here and there, you never get to see that softer side or that appreciation for what you're doing. It comes off as nagging, which nobody really cares for. 1B is addressing whether it should be male or female. My personal take outside of this piece is that it doesn't really matter. In most scenarios, what I've begun to notice in my working career is that male or female, generally speaking, whoever has the better experience and who has more emotional knowledge and can control their emotions is the ones that are going to have success here. So in addressing Hofstrade's dimensions, I had swayed towards more of a male candidate, specifically because of their masculinity traits. It is above what you would typically see as 50-50. It's towards the 62, I believe it's 63, that UK piece is covering it right there, but no big deal. But that would be the only reason that we would point to a male figure in this role. Again, usually it comes to emotional stability and being able to manage associates. That is the highest of priorities when it comes to this stuff. Go to the next one, Beth. Thank you. The other one was, does language or education play a role? So 1C is going to be primarily to language. Again, I kind of addressed it before. I don't believe that this question was necessarily related to this UK-US one. The only reason I think it would is because of the UK's relationship with the EU. But with that being completely gone, there really isn't much need to have a diverse linguistic culture in place or have somebody who's negotiating in different languages. It doesn't make a ton of sense. You limit your candidate base and you might go after somebody that is less qualified than someone who just speaks English, especially considering that English is one of the most prominent languages spoken around the world. And then lastly, educational background. I firmly do believe that it matters. Previously in class, we talked several times about how CEOs in the US specifically have background in maybe not legal, but some litigation so that they're able to argue, push back on people, have that political framework in mind so that they know how to handle conversations. That or having MBA level degrees so that way you get a broad perspective on the business. I would encourage more of an MBA legal, almost a mix of both of them. One, so you can understand how to have appropriate conversations from a political perspective. And two, so you can really understand the business and what the business needs. They are really unique sets of skills that are really hard to find in people. If you can find a good mesh of a personality with both of those backgrounds, usually they have a ton of success in the business world. And that's going to wrap it up for my 1 through 4 or A through D. I'm going to kick it over to Beth.
Okay. So I have questions 1E through G and question 2. So I'm going to start with question 1E through G. So that talking about what functional area in the company the navigator should come, the negotiator should come through, what approach they should take working with both employees in both countries, and any other interesting characteristics that you think are important. So for the functional area, I thought that having someone in HR or legal or a law area would be very helpful. With the law area, with knowing the employment laws of both the US and the UK in specific, they will be able to guide like the conversations away from something that might not be good in one of the countries, either because it's illegal or it's just not like a common practice. So we'll help find where the two should meet on some areas, especially if there's a lot of conflict between the employees on each side. So they will also have the ability of knowing how to conduct negotiations, kind of how Gage talked about that already. So I believe that like the law area or HR would be very helpful, but as long as the person is knowledgeable of the subject matter, it doesn't completely matter. So For working with the American and British employees, a different approach needs to be taken with each. In the US, employees will want to know what is in it for them and why it is beneficial to their long-term goals in their career. Because while they might be at the company for a while, they may not always stay at the company, so they want to know how it helps them get to wherever they're going, whether it's staying with the company or a different company. While in the UK, it is in their culture to say how their place in the company helps the company to succeed. So they'd want to know how they're helping the company to survive and succeed and grow. So we're working on an HR policy in this case. The employee's wants and needs will probably vary, so compromises will be needed. And for other in-person characteristics, one big thing I noticed is different between the two is that the US has at-will employment, whereas the UK does not, and their employment is through formal written contract. So that could cause some issues in creating an HR policy. The US employees can just leave whenever and they don't have a written contract, whereas the UK has to have a written contract. That could cause some issues in negotiating one. And also someone with a high emotional intelligence will be a good choice because they will be able to help the other people see where they're coming from and just get people all around thinking that the compromises are helping them no matter what side they're on. So for question 2, it was where should the negotiation take place, whether it be in Buffalo, London, or someplace else. So since Buffalo is considered the home office, I figured that doing it in the US could be seen as an unfair advantage to the employees in London, where they already know that Buffalo was the first and home office. So to make things more even, I believe that the negotiations should take place in the United Kingdom, just not in London. So I did some research with some friends that I have that live in the UK, and they suggested a lot of cities. The city that came up most frequently again and again was Manchester, which is a city, but it's closer to one end of the UK than to London. So this could help bridge the gap between Buffalo and London offices, since neither one of them will completely think that they have an unfair position. So I will take that on to Hunter.
Hi, so the next thing that we wanted to look at was the difference in compensation or salary policies for individual employees in the US and in the UK. We wanted specifically to look at what motivated these employees and what the chief negotiator might suggest in order to reconcile the differences that each employee is looking for. Beth, you can go to the next slide, please. So first, we looked at what the American employee wants to see in their salary or compensation package. Through some of our research, we found that in 2019, almost 25% of Americans said that they would prefer a pay cut in favor of a better work-life balance. This work-life balance can flow through a lot of different options, different features, which we'll touch upon as we go through the list. But the first thing that we do see is the salary for American employees. The bonuses for American employees. So this can be based on the company's performance or the individual's performance, and that decision would ultimately be left up to the firm. Realistically, I believe that if the individuals in a firm are performing at a high level, then the firm is probably going to be successful, and the employees are going to see that bonus either way. I guess if it's a more individualistic firm, then maybe an individual performance bonus would be preferred. So as we talked about a better work-life balance, we see that American employees desire for a greater amount of paid sick days and a greater amount of vacation time. These two aspects of work can be crucial in keeping employees motivated in the workplace, which in the long run will help the company in their performance and also reduce employee turnover in the workplace. We also see that in today's society and during the current pandemic that working remotely was almost necessary for a while, and a lot of firms and businesses are still doing that. But as we move into the future, we don't know what will happen in those instances, whether firms will continue to offer that as an option, or if they'll force their employees to come back into the workplace. Personally, through our research, we saw that American employees do want that opportunity to work from home for maybe a couple of weeks, or have flexible work hours where they can come in early in a day and maybe leave a little bit earlier than their office workers, or maybe come in a little bit later if they had a late night and then stay in the office until then. Especially in America as well, with the cost of tuition for colleges and universities increasing, we see the desire for American employees to have some student loan forgiven. I think that would be an interesting aspect of a compensation package for firms to offer their employees, and I think that would be very beneficial to a lot of especially people that are going for their master's or second degrees. This could really help the firm attract some of those more educated employees, which in turn would end up having them succeed greater. Beth, if you want to go to the next slide. So from those wants, we compiled a list of policies that American workers want. Keep in mind that this does kind of reduce the, monetary value of the compensation package, but we looked at the benefits that a better work-life balance could provide for their employees. So initially, we'll look at the bonuses, and we projected that a 7 to 12% bonus for all salaried employees would be reasonable, and that could increase for up to 40% for upper management, directors, executives in this firm. This would not pertain to hourly workers, as we know a lot of them need to actually be in the office, and a lot of them aren't as in many skilled positions as salaried employees. So we're just going to look at the salaried employees. In terms of sick days, we projected that about 5 paid sick days, that's a full work week of paid time off, was reasonable in the first 2 years, and then in the following years, that could increase from anywhere to 7 to 14 days, almost a full 3 weeks off of paid time. And with those sick days, they would roll over into the new year. Those would not just disappear if you didn't use them. So that would also be a added benefit to not using them, that maybe in the future you would have the opportunity to have even more. With vacation time, we projected about 3 to 4 weeks vacation time per year was reasonable. That gives American employees the opportunity to, maybe go on a vacation with their family, or do something else that they've been trying to do but just haven't had the time with their workload. These would not roll over year to year, so you would need to utilize them in the year that you receive them. We also talked about how remote work may become available or stay available in the future, and we projected a reasonable amount of up to 30 days of remote work. You would still be doing the same thing you would be doing in the office, you just wouldn't have to get up and go in. This could be beneficial for someone maybe with young kids, if you don't have time to find a babysitter or something like that. You can continue to work from home and still get paid for that work. Year over year salary increase. We projected about a 5% increase year over year for employees that reside at the company for more than 2 years. And then that could increase to 10% or upwards in the following years 3 to 5. We also recommended a lifestyle break. This is an offer of about 4 to 12 weeks of leave with a guarantee of getting the job back when you return to the workplace. Again, this could be for parents with young children or someone that, you know, gets injured and is used up a lot of their vacation time. This gives you that opportunity to kind of step back from work, but still have the opportunity to return should you want to. And then another option was the career break. This is an offer of up to 6 months to a year of a break from work with the right to return as well. This would be a little bit more, I think, based towards maybe if you're trying to find another niche or another job, another opportunity. This would give you the time and the resources to really explore that and make sure that you're making the right decision before returning. So then, Beth, if you want to go to the next slide, we looked at what the United Kingdom employees were motivated by and what they would want in their salary and compensation packages. So unlike a lot of European countries, the UK is more similar to the US, in that they're motivated more by money than the other European countries. This could be seen as a negative because it could suggest that there's low engagement in the workforce and that many of the people are just there to make money and not really bought into the business's culture, vision, mission, or whatever goals they've set out to achieve in that year. We also see that UK workers are the least likely of European countries to claim that they love their job. Only about 13% of UK workers said this. When compared with the Netherlands, it's about 26%. So that's almost double the amount of people in the Netherlands say that they love their job than those in the UK. That kind of tells you right there that, you know, people are kind of only showing up for work because of the monetary rewards that they're receiving there. They may not be fully bought in or vested into the company, which could end up in turn hurting the firm as a whole. So as the UK employees focus more on monetary compensation opposed to the work-life balance, we believe that a 401k match and a pension plan were two very important aspects to UK employees. This would allow them early on in their careers to set themselves up for financial success and to really prepare themselves for retirement, while also seeing the monetary rewards in today. We also suggest that the UK better incentivize performance bonuses. This may increase the amount of engagement that we see in UK employees in multinational firms and could really get them a bit more bought into what the company's trying to do, knowing that if they reach certain quotas or incentivifications that they're going to receive the value back at some point. And in the end, an increase in employee retention. As I mentioned, you know, a lot of these UK employees are focused on the money and not so much the job. So should we compensate them in the correct way, that would be able to hopefully reduce employee turnover and increase the employee retention rate in the firm. If you want to go to the next slide, Beth. So from there, we compiled a few of the UK compensation policies. These were similar to the American ones, but what we saw as a difference was that a lot of the UK employees already felt that they had the work-life balance that they were expecting when entering the workforce. So there is a bit more of monetary incentivization in these policies opposed to the US and less work-life balance policies based around it. So we suggested a 10 to 15% bonus, which is almost 5% higher than what we suggested for the American employees. And that would be for all salaried employees, and then also up to a 50% bonus for management, directors, and executives. The amount of paid sick days stayed the same throughout the two. we thought that that was a reasonable number for most firms to implement. And that's the same with the amount of sick days, up to 14. Could increase, but is a little bit less than maybe what the American employee would want. Similar with vacation time, we recommended about 3 to 4 weeks for American employees, and for the UK, we're recommending about 2 to 3 weeks. This would allow the firms to, make that money back in the amount that they're paying out in compensation bonuses while having their employees at the firm working. We did like to stick with the opportunity for UK employees to have up to 30 days of remote work. Again, that would allow them to stay at home, continue to do their job from home, and hopefully still benefit the company as a whole, but kind of gives them that balance a little bit better. We also projected a bit of a higher year-over-year increase in base salary for UK employees. This was to motivate them to stay with an employer longer, to reduce that turnover, and to make them feel like they're receiving the benefits of staying at a company and putting in the hard work to receive those. And then again, with the lifestyle and career breaks, we recommended a little bit of a shorter time period for those, as the UK employees feel that they already have a decent work-life balance. And again, that can be made up, that reduction in those times could be made up for in the bonuses given to the UK employees. If you want to go to the next slide, thought this was an interesting figure as well. And it kind of shows the changes in what employees want in certain age groups. So we can see in the past that 401k and health insurance were really important to people between their 50s and 70s, the baby boomers. But as the millennials start to enter the workforce, they're more favored towards student loan forgiveness, working remotely, flexible work hours, tuition reimbursement, paid parental leave, things that do suggest a better work-life balance. And I think that that's pretty true around the world. I think a lot of the older generation, they were used to working a lot of hours in a week and not having that opportunity to be at home. But as we've progressed as a society, these are the wants of the new generation. And I think it's important for firms to recognize this and definitely implement policies based around what their employees want. So finally, if you go to the next slide, Beth, we compiled a list of American and UK policies that the firm would implement. This kind of bill bridges the gap between the monetary compensation that United Kingdom workers wanted and the work-life balance that American workers wanted. So what we did was took almost the averages of what we projected for each of the individual nations and compiled them to make a reasonable list of policies for a multinational firm. This would be for performance bonuses between 8 and 13%. It's slightly on the higher end of the American bonus, but on the lower end of the United Kingdom bonus. And again, that would only be for salaried employees and then upper management, directors, and executives. We did recommend the same amount of paid sick days and paid sick days for both nations. So we stuck with that at 5 paid sick days per year for the first 2 years, and then up to 14 in the years following that, with rollover effective. In terms of vacation time, we decided that 2 to 3 weeks of vacation time were reasonable. I think that that's what's expected mostly now in the American business world, and then it's a little bit lower than what the United Kingdom is seeing, but that would allow the firm to really provide additional monetary benefits to their employees instead of vacation or sick days. We did like the idea of remote work becoming available to all employees for up to 30 days in the year. Again, that gives the opportunity for a better work-life balance and family life. It can make employees feel a little bit better about their business, knowing that the firm cares about what's going on outside of the workforce. For an increase in base compensation or salary, we recommended a 10% increase in the first 2 years for salaried employees, and then upwards of 15% year over year for the following years. Again, that's kind of what it is now in the US, maybe a little bit on the higher end, but would definitely attract the UK employees with those additional base compensation benefits. And then to wrap it up, we also would like to implement the lifestyle break and the career break. We don't really see those that often in the United States, so I thought that those were interesting policies that a multinational firm could implement. Again, that gives workers the opportunity to take a couple weeks or up to months off with the promise to return. These are not paid time off. This just allows them the opportunity to maybe research other jobs or industries that they may be interested, go back to school, go to additional training classes, and really maybe develop their own personal life outside of work. And that will end it for me. So I will pass it on to Molly.
Thanks, Hunter. So I was tasked to research possible recognition awards, and I found that many companies actually need to improve their employee recognition and appreciation policies. So the UK and the US have similar recognition satisfaction rates at around 50%. There were other interesting statistics like 20% of the UK employees stated that they had never received any recognition, and 82% of US employees don't feel recognized enough. So improving the recognition system of our company can have managers see an improvement in the quality of work, increased trust with employees, and reduced absenteeism. So currently, employees are feeling very isolated and are working more hours than usual since they're at home. So this increased recognition is essential. The employees usually do not, or right now do not have an ideal work-life balance, and they feel that they should be recognized for the additional work that they're doing. Okay, Beth, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I based our American appreciation of policy off of Google. So Google has been on Forbes' top companies to work for the last 11 years, and then has been #1 for the last 6 years. So they're a great company to base this off of. So Google realized that they were losing valuable employees due to underappreciation. So after some research, they actually created a brand new rewards and recognition policy. So they realized that incentivizing their employees with large cash rewards was not the most effective way. Some employees felt jealous and resented the employee that received that large cash bonus, which definitely hurt the team morale. So now Google rewards its employees with experiences such as going out to dinner, new technology, or trips. So this new rewards program has been effective, and Google's employees have felt more incentivized with this new program and felt that their company had put more thought into the program and that they cared more about them. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So for the UK employees, I found that compared to other European countries, the UK has longer working hours, yet has a lower productivity rate. In recent years, there has been a large push to transition into a 4-day work week instead of the traditional 5-day work week. To show appreciation to their hardworking employees, the company could offer a more flexible schedule throughout the week or support more work from home once everyone is back in the office. This is kind of similar or pretty similar to what Hunter mentioned, how you could have like the 30-day remote or work from home in their salary. So yeah, the flexible schedule will allow the workers to work the regular hours, but at their convenience, starting at different times or leaving early a little bit. And then this allows just for a better work-life balance since they can attend more personal events, but still complete everything they need to at work. This can also just show appreciation to their employees since they're taking into consideration what their employees are asking for, since there has been that push to the 4-day work week. And I'm not sure that the company can particularly provide that specific want, but they could try to get the employees closer to that end goal. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so for the American and UK employees, I base this more off of like experiences and or like time off. So if the company wants to recognize an entire team, they could show appreciation with a day outing or a lunch outing with the entire team. So this just allows the employees to like have a new scenery or change of environment. They can get out of the office, and then it also strengthens the work relationship. This can then help develop personal relationships, which can lead to better team cohesion and just better communication throughout the team. So, and then if they are looking to do individual recognition, they could give top performers multiple days off or the ability to leave work a few hours early for multiple days. Obviously, the top performer would receive the most days off and then so on. And then to incentivize all potential employees. So once they like receive or they reach a certain metric, that could be sales or good customer reviews or anything like that, they could also receive a certain amount of days off. So this policy allows their employees to spend more time with their family then or have an early start to the weekend. So after this, pandemic and a lot of people are working from home, it'll be nice when the employees can go back into the office and then have a better boundary of work and home. And then obviously the company could also give the option of just a pure monetary recognition award. If the employee does not want the extra days off, it could be equivalent to a couple days off for their pay, or this would just be if the employee thinks they already have a good work-life balance like many of the UK employees do. So this could just be another option for the company. Okay, I'm going to pass it off to Navar now.
Thanks, Molly. So my question was all about retention. Basically, how do we hold on to talented American employees, British employees, and what does the chief negotiator suggest that we do? So you can go ahead to the next slide. For American talent, I would say proper career development. A lot of jobs are changing, especially with COVID and everybody going online. In order to keep up with the times, the company should allow career development where learning new skills, learning new objectives about the company, where it can go. Also, what Molly said, recognize and award success. A lot of Americans value the reward that they get after doing their job. They don't want to feel like they're just like a random statistic or a random number. They want to feel valued in the company. Also offer more vacation time, especially with the flexible schedule that we have now with COVID. A lot of people are used to working from home. So in order to keep a good work-life balance, that company should offer more vacation time. And then companies should also focus more on their retention more than their onboarding. It is a lot cheaper for the company to keep their employees rather than trying to hire new ones. So they should focus more on what their employees actually want versus trying to spend more money to get someone else. You can move on to the next slide. For British talent, so what this company that we're working for is basically starting in Buffalo, a lot of cultural training. Just because we both speak English, it's still a different cultural barrier. So to make sure that we have that. Also, British employees like to be motivated through individualism, basically meaning that they don't want to be so much micro managed. They want to be their own person and create their careers for themselves. And then also the same as American employees, they want to bolster their retention efforts, basically offering better benefits packages, such like Hunter said, and also, and also being able to keep their talent as well. And then you can go for the next one. And then for the chief negotiator policy, so mainly I feel that we need to stay with the guided missile culture, which is being able to work in diverse teams in order to get the job done or the project done at hand. Everybody is in the company is treated equally and with respect. And then also within the company, new and developing, changing teams within the company can be changed in order to fit new company objectives. When it comes to American and in British employees, the guided missile culture fits well because both countries, their motivation tends to be more intrinsic and not just about money. They want to get something out of their day and they want to get something out of their job as well. And then that is all that I have.
So I think that wraps up our final presentation. We thank you all for listening and we hope you learned some stuff. So have a great summer and stay in school, kids.